Right, good evening, everybody. It's just gone 7 o'clock, so we're going to start the meeting. Welcome to this meeting of the Cabinet, those in the audience and those watching online. Quite a few interesting items on the agenda, so hopefully you get something out of it. My name is Councillor Shantanu Rajawat. I'm the leader of the Council and also Chair of Cabinet. I'm joined around the table by my Cabinet colleagues who will be taking part in the debate and introducing themselves as they speak. I'm also joined around the table by officers of the Council who do not take part in the decision making but are on hand should we require their assistance during the course of deliberations. Also around the table we have the Leader of the Opposition who is here and able to ask questions but also doesn't take part in the decision making, and we've had apologies from the Chair of Overview and Scrutiny who would normally also have a standing invitation. Before we start, for those in the audience, can I just very respectfully remind you this is a meeting in public, not a public meeting. As such, you are very welcome to observe today. However, only the decision makers around the table are able to take part in the discussion. Cabinet colleagues, can I just check that you've got the main agenda and the addendum? Yeah, excellent, wonderful. Before we get into the substantive item, I'm just going to use Chair's privilege for a moment. Cabinet colleagues may well be aware that our Chair of the Lambton Group, Martin Cresswell, is retiring at the end of September. He's taken the decision to retire. He's been with us for a number of years, and in that time he's also filled in as interim managing director as well as chair, and I'm sure colleagues around the table will join me in sending our thanks to him and wishing him the very best for the future. I know you won't be a stranger, Martin. I know you're watching online. You won't be a stranger to Hounslow, and we always welcome your advice and thank you for everything that you did. Can I also take the opportunity to introduce Louise Round, who is our new interim monitoring officer who's joined us. Comes with a wealth of experience, and I know on behalf of Cabinet, Louise, we really look forward to working with you as well over the next few months as well. And in doing so, can I also extend my thanks to Rachel McCoy, who has moved on, and wish her well in her new job as well. Right, so we move to the first item on the agenda, which is apologies for absence. Now, I've had apologies from Councillor Sue Sampson and Councillor Sayar Raza. I think everyone else is here. Yeah, everyone else is here. Can I ask Cabinet colleagues, are there any declarations of interest? Yeah, I think we all received items. Go on, Councillor Bruce.
Received communication from residents on item 12. Sorry, 12. I was thinking about something else to do with club. On item 7, as well as communication from Councillor Biddulph as well.
And I think that's the same for all Cabinet colleagues on item 7.
Item 7. Yes, to be clear, 7, not 12.
Not 12, exactly. Any other, apart from item 7, any other declarations? No. And communications? Good. Can I ask Cabinet colleagues to make note of the monitoring officer's note on declaring interests as well? So moving on, we go to the meeting, the minutes of the meeting held on the 16th of July. I'll take that page by page for accuracy and matters arising, if I can find it. Starting at page 7. Oh, 7, Councillor Dunn.
Yeah, so it's recorded that Councillor Dunn reported she had received correspondence on e-bikes. She added for the record she was a member of the London Cycling Campaign. Although she pointed out she did not consider this a conflict of interest. It's not me that considers that. It is the view of the monitoring officer previously, and I've checked with the new monitoring officers. So if that could just be clarified, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Absolutely. That's my understanding of the situation. So we'll amend those to reflect that. Okay, anything else on page 7? Page 8, page 9, page 10, page 11, page 12, page 13, page 14, and finally page 15. Are colleagues happy for me to sign those minutes as accurate with the amendment? Agreed? Excellent, thank you. Right, we move on to the first item, substantive item on the agenda, which is a consultation on Hounslow's local council tax support scheme. That is a report from me, and that starts on page 16. So this report is asking Cabinet to authorise us to go out to consultation on proposed changes to the council tax support scheme, commencing from the 1st of April 2025. Now, to add a bit of context, we need to review everything across council. Nothing is off the table, but in particular this scheme in the context of the significant financial challenges that the council and local government in general faces over the medium term, as set out in our July 1 Hounslow Financial Strategy Cabinet paper. What we found is increasing demand, historically higher inflation, and 10 years of continuing government funding cuts means that we must be willing to make difficult decisions to keep the council's entire financial position in a good place over the medium term. We are committed to maintaining financial stability over the medium term, and the new proposals aim to ensure that that remains the case. So the new proposals recommend that all residents pay a percentage share of their council tax in the future. But there's also a clear recognition and realignment of the current policy to direct improved support depending on the size of the household. As such, a number of people will benefit from the proposed changes. The principle underpinning the new scheme are therefore targeted more directly towards need. But we're not simply putting these proposals forward as a fait accompli. The new scheme proposal will be accompanied by an in-depth consultation period beginning in mid-September after we've been to overview and scrutiny, which follows our radical overhaul of community engagement principles. We plan to outreach directly into our many communities to ensure that everyone potentially affected has their say in the new scheme. The findings of that consultation and the full equalities impact assessment will come back to Cabinet ahead of the new financial year to recommend to Council any changes to the scheme. Alongside any changes, there will be some transitional support to allow residents to adopt the new billing arrangements, and this also will be presented back to Cabinet alongside the final outcome, of the consultation. So in that introduction, I move the report. Any second?
Yes, very happy to second, and will reserve my right to speak.
Thank you, Councillor Bruce. It's now open for discussion and debate. Anybody like to say anything? Councillor Dunn.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Catherine Dunn, I didn't say it before. Councillor Catherine Dunn, Cabinet Member for Climate, Environment and Transport. Yes, thank you for bringing this report. It is very important that we look at it and give it its consideration, and take it out to our residents to have their say on as well. Making reductions in spending in support is difficult, and it's not something that any of us came into politics to do, but given the situation that we're in, it is the right thing to consider doing. So it's never easy making those decisions about spending, but there are easy ways to do it, and we are not simply proposing the easy way to do it. We're not just saying let's remove this amount of funding from the scheme and otherwise keep it as it is. We are taking this opportunity to look at the scheme as a whole and say, okay, if we have less money going into this, how can we target that to the most vulnerable, to the people who need it most? And we are looking to support families and people with children. And so, difficult as these decisions are, I think we've approached it in the right way so far. We will, of course, take it out to consultation, listen to residents, and then reconsider in due course.
Thank you, Councillor Dunn. Absolutely right. Councillor Bath.
Thank you, Leader. Yeah, I support this proposal to go out to consultation, and I kind of echo what Councillor Dunn has said. I mean, I think budget pressures aside, I think some of the proposals, from what is being proposed here, hopefully will make the scheme a lot simpler. I think it is quite an onus, I think, on residents at the moment in terms of submitting information, in terms of getting the right sort of support and help. So I think where we can simplify things for residents and make it easier and more transparent, I'm absolutely in favour of that. So obviously budget pressures aside and having difficult decisions to make, but I'm hoping that a lot more people will benefit from this as a result of the proposal. So obviously it'll be interesting to see what we get back in terms of consultation. But I think it's also important to point out, as Catherine Dunn has said, that we're looking at the scheme in a wider sense, the whole scheme in itself, and to make sure that actually it is easy, not just to administer, but for people to understand, and it is targeted appropriately, and less administrative cost for us, but hopefully helping more people as well. And of course, targeting, there will be people that will potentially lose out, but hopefully on balance it will help more of those that need the scheme, that need the support. But more than happy to sort of support it going out to proper consultation, which is what we are doing tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Bath. Councillor Thompson.
Thanks. I appreciate this comment. It's not an easy area, is it? And it's really vitally important that, as you mentioned, Leader, that the consultation process is detailed and thorough, and it's not just a rubber stamping exercise, talking to the usual suspects and all the rest of it. The principles behind the new proposed scheme, the first one, for example, making sure that everyone contributes something, I think is a fair, and I think most people, those who aren't in the scheme, would, I think, support that notion behind it. I'm very conscious that Hounslow has a very generous scheme compared to many authorities, and I'm sure none of you are particularly happy that we have to go through this. But so I would just make the point about, and I'm sure you totally agree, you've said it already, the consultation has to be real, meaningful. There has to be no sort of preconceived ideas, no sense that we have to save 10 million, all the rest of it. We just need to go out there and ask what impact it would have. And whenever there are changes, as we're seeing elsewhere in the country, very mindful of those who fall through the new system, because there are always people who fall through the system for a variety of reasons. So I think from our side, we're looking forward, if you like, to the results of the consultation, and hopefully that's a very detailed report that we can look into and get a real sense of how these will impact on the real people in Hounslow. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Anyone else on that? No, I can't see anyone else indicating. So just in summing up and just responding to your point, Councillor Thompson, we'll have an opportunity at overview and scrutiny to air some of the consultation plans, which I look forward to doing in any way. But also we've got the benefit of our equality, diversity and inclusion strategy work, which identified areas and potential groups that we've always struggled to engage with or haven't engaged with us. And I'm particularly want to hear from those groups as well about the impact that this will have. So you're absolutely right to say that this needs to be a thorough consultation process, and I'll be monitoring it alongside Jake as the Executive Director throughout its passage until we get to the end results as well. So no one else, and I've summed up. So the recommendations on this report are on page 16, 1.1 and 1.2. Can I see all those in favour? That is carried unanimously. Thank you very much, colleagues. Right, the next item is also mine, which is the delivery plan monitoring for Q1. So this is the first quarter of the new financial year. I won't say too much on this report because Cabinet colleagues will be very aware of this report. It's a usual report that comes through. It's very important, as I've always said, for us to track performance against our corporate plan, which is a very ambitious set of pledges to our residents, and delivering those are important. It's not about greenwashing a report. It's about being very honest and open about where there are areas that we need to either accelerate work or consider work again, and where things are lagging behind where we planned, being honest about that and bringing those back online. So Cabinet members will be aware of this report, and I formally move it.
Yes, I'm very happy to second it as well. Reserve my right to speak.
Thank you, Councillor Bruce. Right, so open for discussion and debate. Anybody on this report as I say, it's fairly straightforward. No, I can't see anyone indicating on this. So the recommendations are on page 43, 1 to 4. Can I see all those in favour? That is carried. Thank you. Right, my third and final report is the financial monitoring, if I can find the page. Financial monitoring update. Again, a report that Cabinet will be very used to. This is for Q1. So this is the first of the new financial year since setting the budget. Just to draw out some points from the report, you'll note that the General Fund, the Council General Fund, is presenting a £14.9 million overspend. Just to give you a sense of where mainly that is coming from. Unaccompanied asylum seeking children's costs, that's about 3 million, which I will say is an outlier in London in terms of demand. And for our part as a council, we continue to call on the Home Office to adequately fund our extraordinary costs as we lose on average £10,000 per child. So we would like to see that funded. There are also cost pressures in waste and recycling, and that's mainly due to high inflationary costs. Social care costs, which will be familiar to Cabinet colleagues, both in terms of demand, but also in terms of staffing. And I know Councillor Chowdhury, Councillor Bath, you're working with your teams to look at that going forward. And then there are structural pressures of 6 million following the 23-24 outturn as costs continued to increase after we had set the budget. Cabinet will also note that there's a new section in the report which outlines both risks and opportunities, and this will be expanded upon in subsequent reports as a demonstration of the hard work we as a Cabinet and our officers are doing to keep costs under control as far as possible. I will say, and I'm not making an excuse for the pressures because we absolutely have to keep up the rigour here, but the budget challenges that we face here in Hounslow are completely reflective of the London position, with almost every other local authority projecting significant overspends as demand continues to rise. And the £6 million budget structural overspend is likely to feed into the medium-term financial strategy on top of our £30 million gap reported in July, and we'll be reporting on that later on in the year as we present the midterm financial strategy. So I formally move the report.
Once again, I'll happy to second it and reserve my right to speak.
Thank you, Councillor Bruce. It's open for discussion and debate. Can't see any. Councillor Thompson.
Just, I am conscious of the national pressures in the areas you mentioned, but I suppose we are in the situation where, in February you present a balanced budget, and then a few weeks later, months later, there's problems, and then we have to work the rest of the year to try and sort it out. So I suppose my question, if there was one, is what confidence do you have that through the quarters as we progress through this year, given all the other pressures we still have? In the earlier report it mentioned there's 30 million of savings we have to find and all the rest of it on top of this. How confident are you that we will, by the end of the year, be in a good place, that we're not yet again having to tap on those reserves? Because they must be diminishing rapidly, and they always form a key part of our budget proposals. And if there's nothing left in the pot, I don't know what we're going to say next year. So, yeah.
Okay, I'll come to that in summing up. Anyone else on this report? Can't see anyone else indicating. So, yeah, I mean, of course, we need to keep up the rigor around budget monitoring, and I meet regularly with each Cabinet member around their budget situation. We know that some of this will be helped with some certainty around funding in the long term, but we do know that demand is increasing, and to a certain degree, that is out of our control without some national intervention. And you would have noted, Councillor Thompson, that each Cabinet member has or will be writing to their Cabinet lead, setting out a set of asks. A lot of those are financial related, but also in terms of changes to legislation to make things a little bit easier. We've always been very good at managing the money. Yes, if we have to dip into reserves, we do, but we appreciate that once they're gone, they're gone. And we want plenty left for your alternative budget when it comes in February, and we're not in a position of being bankrupt and not being able to meet our liabilities. But it is about keeping up that rigor, and what you will see is a little bit of a watch this space as we get into the midterm financial strategy. You'll start seeing some of the proposals that we've got around balancing the budget, one of which may well be the council tax support scheme that we talked about earlier. Okay, I can't see anyone else indicating on that. So the recommendations on this are on page 138 over onto 139A to K. Can I see all those in favour? That is carried unanimously. Excellent. Thank you very much. Right, we now move on to item 6, which is procurement of a hired passenger transport for SEND, and that is Councillor Samia Chowdhury.
Thank you, Leader. Councillor Samia Chowdhury, Cabinet Member for Education, Children's Skills and Employment. This contract is to procure external transport suppliers, minicabs and minibuses companies for send home to school transport, booking for all the council teams. The current contract expires in April 2025 with potentially a short extension to allow for transition between the current and the new contract. As the current contract is coming to an end, we have to go out to tender for a new contract. The Transport Coordination Service works closely with SEND colleagues and have statutory duty to provide home to school transport for our eligible children, young people and adults with an education, health and care plan up to the age of 25. The figures provided in this report are on page 191. They're up till July 2024. We are currently preparing for a new academic year, which has already started. Today is 3rd of September, and it is anticipated that the number of people to be transported will increase over the new academic year. We have an in-house service that provides most of the minibus journeys, transporting 354 pupils as of July 2024. This contract is required to provide an additional transport that the in-house team do not have the capacity to do. For example, the smaller vehicles such as cars, MPVs, and additional minibuses. External contractors, as of July 2024, transported 590 pupils. Currently, as of July, external suppliers operated 195 routes on behalf of the council, and 52 routes were in-house. Due to our statutory duty, we need to commence procuring this contract in order to ensure provision is in place when the current contract expires. Transport demand will be monitored against the SEND safety and reviewed regularly in partnership with financial colleagues. And our transport coordination works closely with Ealing ManCap to provide independent travel training to our young people who are assessed as if they are able to have a training to travel by themselves. The resources are in place currently enable approximately 26 young people to be travel trained per year, and the scheme has been running for a number of years. So in this report, the recommendations are on page 190, 1, 2 and 3. And with this, I'll just move the report.
Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. I'll second the report and formally reserve my right to speak. It's now open for discussion, questions and debate. Councillor Bruce.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. My time as lead member for Education and Children's Services, this was an issue that constantly came up. It's a very demand heavy, as we talked about demand in a financial context earlier. This is a specific example of where that demand, another specific example where that demand is needed, and it does increase year on year on year. It's important that those young people with SEND are given appropriate transport to school, and that forms a variety of different things. It may be for some that walking or taking public transport with support is right, but for others, going by minibus or various other forms, particularly when they're traveling far away, is exactly what they need and what we should not just legally, but I believe morally, be providing for them. So looking at the range of options that we have and expanding on those range of options that we have in order to make sure that this meets their needs, but also fits in with the financials that we find ourselves in is really, really important. So absolutely support these proposed changes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bruce. Anyone else on this one? No, can't see anyone indicating. So as Councillor Chowdhury said, the recommendations are on page 190, 1, 2, 3. Can I see all those in favour? That is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Right, we next move on to agenda item 7, and that is the results of the consultation for the designation of the Glebe Estate as a conservation area. Councillor Bruce.
Yes, thank you very much. Very interesting item, I believe, this evening. We have a number of conservation areas in the borough already, and this report is asking for approval to designate another area as a conservation area. This one has had a couple of challenges, which I will describe, and I think it's understandable why some of those have arisen, but also I hope I can explain why we believe that, and various other groups believe that this area demands conservation area status. So work started actually about 3 or 4 years ago, back in 2020, 2021. There was with officers looking at this as a conservation area at that point, and there was an open consultation then. At that point, actually, the residents themselves had also held a ballot previously, but that was an informal one. I want to acknowledge, but an informal one. Didn't meet the legal requirements that a council one would hold. There were various issues around that consultation. Namely, there was quite a bit of misinformation, and it was decided not to take it forward at that point. I wasn't the lead member. Councillor Steve Curran was the lead member and decided not to take it forward at that point. I was contacted by a resident who said, there's been a huge amount of work on this. Would you, Councillor Bruce, look at it again? So I sent off to officers and I said, what's the situation here? Is this something we should be looking at? And in part of the wider conservation areas that are being looked at and designated and the work done, they provided the work and said, let's go out to consultation again. Let's look again and present all the updated evidence and ask residents again. Now, it's clear from the report and clear from the appendices that you can see that actually the responses were very similar to the previous one. But it seems there's been a lot of misinformation and that seems to have taken hold. What is very clear is that, and this says it in 2.6 in the summary, that the opinion of officers, but also Historic England, the Victorian Society, the 20th Century Society and Labour Heritage is that the character and appearance of the Glebe Estate is such that it should be designated as a conservation area. So it's very clear that those groups who have interest in this and in ensuring that our conservation our areas are conserved. That's the phrase I want to look for. And it says here that this would ensure, by bringing this forward as a conservation area, this would ensure the council is carrying out its statutory duty regarding such areas of special character. So I say all of those things to indicate that this hasn't been straightforward, and it certainly is the case that not all the residents in the area agree with this. However, because of a variety of different bits of information that was given out, the council have tried to respond to those, but the principle around yes or no consultation, yes or no conservation area wasn't really the consultation questions being asked. It was more around, well, what are the special characteristics? Because it's deemed it should be, but it's what are the actual special characteristics? And lots of residents came forward with a variety of different things, and that has all made its way into the report. There are a number of appendices here, 12 appendices. That's why the number 12 was on my mind earlier when I misspoke. Yes, there you go. I was counting up how many appendices there were. And in the 12th appendix 12, it gives quite a lot, gives the common misconceptions there and a response from the council to those, and why some of those things that are believed, and I understand why some of those things are believed, why they're not actually the case. And I hope that regardless of people's view who live there, but also live in the wider area of Chiswick and in other conservation areas, can see what we're saying about that. That, for example, it says here, misconception, the council wants us to stop changing the colour of a painted house. This can't be refused, as a conservation area does not require planning permission. So it's not, those things are not the case, and there's a whole list of those. So lots of the council, lots of work has been gone into from officers, lots of work by interested parties, a lot of support from the groups that I mentioned earlier to designate this as a conservation area, and that's why I am recommending that before you this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bruce. I will formally second the report and reserve my right to speak. It's therefore open for questions and debate. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. I've got a special interest here because I suppose for 20 years this was part of my ward when I was a Turnham Green councillor, so I know the estate very, very well. Can't imagine how many times I walked up and down leaflets through a variety of coloured doors and all the rest of it. I suppose at first glance it might seem to be a bit of a strange decision for a listening council to be going against the consultation, but I think you've explained that often there is misunderstanding. I do smile when I see it described as a working class estate. I don't think it's very working class anymore, but it's I was saying to a resident earlier, when I first started on the council, it actually was. It was quite a mixed community of folks who'd lived in Chiswick for a long time and literally were the butcher and the baker and the candlestick maker. They've probably moved on, and the houses have been taken over by other groups. I suppose it's not for me to make a call either way. It's for Cabinet, but I suppose there's lessons to be learned here, aren't there, in terms of moving forward. So I had to do a slight double take because I was fairly sure we did this 20 years ago, but I looked at the map and we did all the other ones back in the day when area committees decided. But yeah, for some reason this was left out. And I can't say a particular reason, but I do understand what you're saying about it. It's not an easy one. And at face glance, for first look, you might be thinking folks don't want it and it's their house. But there is, I think, an education job to be done if we do perhaps roll these out. I'm not quite sure where else is left in Hounslow that needs one, but I'm sure there will be areas. In terms of going to those groups, I think that's right and proper. I slightly smiled when I saw Labour Heritage. I had a Google of who they were. They're just a membership group of the Labour Party, so I'm not quite sure what their particular expertise is, and maybe we don't want to put too much weight into what they said, but certainly the other ones are well worth listening to. So I do understand your presentation and hear and see where you're coming from. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Dunn.
Thank you. Yes, I can understand why people have reservations about this. I can understand why people living on the estate do. We are taking away their rights to do certain things with their homes, and we have to remember that it's not a decision that should be taken lightly. It's one that has to be balanced with the reasons that are put forward in the paper as for why we should go ahead with this, why there is a special character to the area that is deserving of being protected. I don't think we can completely live in the past, and we have to get those balances right. This doesn't mean that people won't be able to make any alterations to their homes, and that's been explained. It doesn't mean that people won't be able to get planning permission. What it does mean is that for some things, planning permission may be more difficult to achieve, may be required where otherwise it wouldn't be. And again, that is something we are now imposing on people, so we need to be cognizant of that. In particular, people may be worried that they can't implement things like solar panels, other heat pumps, renewable energy sources, which, as the paper points out, people are wishing to do for reasons of the climate, but also the cost of living crisis. And so, as the paper points out, it is still possible to do those things, but now the responsibility on us as a local authority and planning authority is to ensure that people can do those things, and that where applications are made, it's made relatively easy for people to find the right solution for this conservation area. Thanks.
Yeah, it's absolutely the right point. It's balancing conservation with advances and the ability to make changes in their houses. Can't see anyone else indicating. Would you like to sum up?
No, I need to thank both Councillor Dunn and Councillor Thompson for their words, and to say that we are a listening council, Councillor Thompson. We have listened. I have absolutely listened to all the various voices that have come through. That doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to be able to please everybody. And we also want to have, it's not just about listening, I want to have that conversation with people and be able to talk about conservation areas, but conserving important characteristics of this borough, of which there are many, and this is one area that has great characteristics. Alongside, as I look out of the window, new developments going up, and I think balancing that as a borough, making sure that we have both, the best of both, is exactly what we want to do. So thank you. Yeah, thank you all very much.
Good. Okay. The recommendations on this report are on page 198, 11 and 12. Can I see all those in favour? That is carried. Thank you very much, everybody. Right. We now move on to agenda item 8, the development of a culture strategy for 2025-2035. Councillor Shaheen.
Thank you very much, Leader. Councillor Salman Shaheen, Cabinet Member for Culture, Leisure and Public Spaces. I'm bringing this report forward to you at a particularly interesting time, I would say, for the borough and its cultural outlook. We stand very much, I would say, at a crossroads in terms of culture in Hounslow. We've just come off the back of the Creative Mile in Brentford, fantastic achievement, a fantastic celebration of the arts and creatives across our borough, brings so many different people together. And I think it's so important to recognise what we have. We've just come off the back of the renovations we've seen at Boston Manor House. We've seen the events in Bell Square. We've seen world-class musical acts brought into our parks and open spaces. And I think there's so much to celebrate, so many tremendous opportunities out there. But we also have to recognise the difficulties, the challenges we face. There's been colossal challenges to the arts nationally and locally, and let's not beat around the bush. When we saw the Hounslow Arts Trust pull out of Waterman's, that was very much a blow to culture in the borough, and I think we do have to recognise that. Now, we will found a new arts centre, of that I've absolutely no doubt, but that's not enough. We have to, as a borough, punch above our weight. We have to be more than a sum of our parts. It can't be just about this venue or that event. We need a holistic culture strategy. For the first time ever, we've never had a holistic culture strategy before. And we need to bring together all stakeholders, all artists, all creatives, all those with an interest in arts and culture across our borough together through a series of workshops to forge a culture strategy that will look at stronger partnerships with providers and funders, boost investment into arts and culture in the borough, and see a better management of our cultural assets. Now, this culture strategy that we want to set ourselves down the path towards founding will guide our cultural approach for the next decade. And I think it's a tremendous opportunity for us to forge a new pathway. And you won't see it written in this report, but it is very much my hope and ambition that the end point of that will see Hounslow win London Borough of Culture.
Absolutely. Let's hope that happens. And I'll second that and second the report and reserve my right to speak. It's open for discussion and debate. Anybody on this one? Yeah, Councillor Bruce.
Yeah, just to say thank you for bringing this in front of us. I mean, clearly this is the starting point for this, and there's a huge amount of work that needs to go into developing this, and also of the next 10 years in ensuring that we do win Borough of Culture at some point in the future. And what an ambition and name that is, and something we should all be striving for. It works, and the report talks about this, that it works well alongside other strategies that we have developed and that we are developing, not least the business case for growth that I'll be bringing forward to Cabinet in a couple of months, to talk about how we are looking at the expansion of various things in our borough, how we can bring growth in, and culture and arts can be part of that. While it's not seen necessarily as, well, there's money in that, actually the wider benefit to the community and how that does bring in those wider economic benefits to the borough. Having good quality acts, having good quality venues, having good quality things going on here is incredibly important and feeds into all of those areas. So this is a great jumping off point and something I'm looking forward to seeing develop in the next few years.
Absolutely. Thank you, Councillor Bruce. Anyone else on this one? Councillor Thompson.
Obviously, an art strategy vitally important. I'm just being very practical here. There's no money for it. So what are we talking about in terms of officers using, existing resources to make this happen? Future bids down the line if we need to have, glossy publications and all the rest of it. It literally is, as you say, a starting point. But we seem to appreciate that there's no cash. So I'm just wondering how you're going to get this done by 2025. You've got a year, haven't you? Yeah.
Thanks, Councillor Thompson. Well, you can address that in your summing up, if that's right. If there's anyone else on that. No, you can sum up then.
At the moment, we're not asking for any money for it because we are at a juncture where we just want to begin a path of consultation, workshop groups, many of which I'll be chairing myself, and I'm not going to charge you, the council, any money for that. It's about holding conversations at this stage. Down the line, I'm sure we will be asking for money, and down the line, we will be looking for funding from various different external interested parties in the arts. And actually, this is a strategy that should seek to achieve greater funding of the arts in Hounslow in the future.
Okay, good. I can't see anyone else indicating on this one. So the recommendations are on page 535, 1 and 2. Can I see all those in favour? That is agreed. Excellent. Thank you all very much. Right. Final item is a petition around a retractable pedestrian bridge from Brentford to Kew Gardens. The petitioner was due to be with us, unfortunately can't be. So you have got the petition in front of you, colleagues. Can I ask Councillor Bruce, would you like to respond to it?
Yeah, I think Councillor Dunn and I will do a bit of a double act on this as well. If I just kick off, I really like this petition. It's one of the reasons I thought actually it would be good to come to Cabinet and hear from the petitioner. So it's a shame they can't make it, obviously, whatever reason they couldn't. But it's a great idea and one that has been kicking around for a while and looking at greater connectivity right across the borough, whether it's cycle lanes or whether it's pedestrian crossings or whether it's a bridge crossing over the Thames into another borough, into a wonderful World Heritage site that Kew Gardens, next to the World Heritage site that Kew Gardens is a terrific idea and has lots of benefit, as the petitioner speaks to in the, I won't repeat all of that, but he speaks to in the words that he submitted today. The difficulty is, as I'm sure everyone can imagine, is the cost. I mean, when this was looked into quite a few years ago now, I think we were talking 10 million plus. This talks about a retractable bridge, I mean, which is going to, with inflation and everything else, plus the retractable nature of that, it really at the moment is not something that we're able to take forward. But it's not something that I want to dismiss completely. So it is something I want to say on record that, doing these sorts of things, doing these major projects in conjunction with lots of other groups and looking at how we might bring something like this forward. I'm not even going to promise a time frame. We could be talking decades, but it's there to say that, as something that we could be thinking about in the future, it's certainly not something I'm going to dismiss today. Councillor Dunn, sorry if I've stolen everything you wanted to say.
Go on, Councillor Dunn.
That's fine. I mean, I agree with Councillor Bruce on all of that. Just to say, yeah, really good idea, something that would benefit the community. As Councillor Bruce has said, it's not something that's feasible for us at the moment. I would add that there are additional challenges, and it's not just the money, but things around land access, ownership, challenges due to the nature of the Thames and the tidal range at that point, all kinds of things. But as Councillor Bruce has said, it's an idea that's on the table. we're not making any promises right now, but we're not taking it off completely either. It will sort of stay there for potential future consideration.
Thank you, Councillor Bruce. Thank you, Councillor Dunn. Cabinet colleague. Oh, sorry, Councillor Thompson, did you have a question?
Yeah, just a very quick one. Just to echo, really, it is a great idea, isn't it? And it's really nice that residents and local groups sometimes bring things forward like this that perhaps we wouldn't have thought of. I'm not sure many of you around the room have, but and sometimes they have ways to, think about quite a few of the things happening in Chiswick, that they can get the money and make things happen and get sponsorship. And suppose sometimes councils do have money to build bits of bridges on the Thames. I think we did ourselves, didn't we, not so long ago, a bit further down. It's about priorities, isn't it, as you say? But I think it's really good to have this almost like a wish list. And I was slightly teasing earlier about being listening council, but inviting people to come forward across the borough with these sort of little, blue sky thinking, what we call them these days, schemes, is no bad thing. And as and when a pot appears somewhere, or a few million floats around, maybe sometime in the distant future, given the pressures are under, it'd be quite nice to enhance the realm by looking at some of these approaches. Yeah.
Just to kind of, well, to sum up, but to carry on from that, I mean, I think it would be two boroughs looking at this anyway. So conversation with Richmond Borough Council as well would be a starting point there. But Kew Gardens right next door, they would benefit hugely from this. There is lots of development in the borough and some in Richmond that perhaps, and so starting to think about how that might come through. I mean, it doesn't seem very likely very soon, but as Councillor Dunn has said, having these things on the table, keeping this on the table. But as you say, getting these coming through, I'm surprised it only had 14 signatures, and perhaps that's just a level of, we might get more where hundreds of people are saying, yeah, let's do this. And who knows? But let's congratulate. I'll thank the lead petitioner, Mr. Peter Coombs, for bringing this in front of us. So cool.
Thank you all very much. Cabinet colleagues, can we note the response then? Noted? Noted. Excellent. Thank you very much. Right, I've not been notified of any urgent business. The date of the next meeting is Monday, the 14th of October, starting at 7 p.m. Can I thank those that are here in the audience and those that watched online and bid you all a very good night. Thank you very much.